At the Spring Nationals at National Trail Raceway near Columbus, Ohio, I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans. And some of the most popular cars in all of championship drag racing are getting ready for the second round of competition. The funny cars, a fiberglass-bodied creation with tubular chassis, the engine and drivetrain combination, utilizing those 2,500 horsepower nitro-burning engines, just like in the top fuel dragsters. The big difference here, the engine sits in front of the driver, and as we saw earlier in Mike Dunn's case, can be a real problem if they catch on fire. The first pair of cars, Raymond Beadle, the low qualifier, against Al Segrini. Raymond Beadle from Dallas, Texas, the racing entrepreneur that has qualified in the #1 spot for Al Segrini from southeastern Massachusetts. We saw him just about a month ago win our last Diamond P Sports coverage of an NHRA event, the Cajun Nationals. But that's all forgotten at this moment, as in the second round of racing, Raymond Beadle in the near lane with the Blue Max squares off against Al Segrini. The burnout's completed. Both drivers now watching their crew member direct them up to just the right spot on the starting line, trying to find that point that will give them the most traction possible. The tires, some 16 inches wide, will be clawing at the asphalt, trying to reach that combination of acceleration without losing traction. Both drivers staging their cars, and it is up in smoke for Al Segrini. What a break for Raymond Beadle. He heads to the finish line, but something appears to go wrong with his car as it slows to only 180 miles an hour. But Al Segrini did not have the right combination. He takes the early turnoff as he only went a few feet under full acceleration. The tires instantly going up in smoke, indicating that dreaded loss of traction. And he watches his competition, Raymond Beadle, head down the track and take a very important win. And Raymond Beadle hurls the supercharger, the blower belt, towards the security man and begins to take off his helmet and his fire protective clothing. Raymond Beadle won the race, but had some blower belt problems.
Well, Raymond, I was going to ask if you saw him go up in smoke and took it easy, but obviously the blower belt's gone.
Yeah, this is about the third one of these Krager blower belts we broke. So, I mean, every time we put a new one on, it breaks. So.
Nothing inside the engine that's making this happen then?
No, I guess we're going to find one of our old ones. Didn't mean to throw it at you over. Don't arrest me.
Did you see Segrini go up in smoke?
No, I didn't. I never saw him. Never saw him. The car left real good. It moved through the middle real good, and it just broke about 1,000 foot.
Well, it's been almost a year since you'd sat on the pole of one of these events. You got to be pleased with the comeback here, you and your guys.
Yeah, it's running real good, so no problem at all.
Here, you can have this.
Yeah.
Raymond waving the broken blower belt like a trophy to the Blue Max crew, indicating, well, gang, there's some work coming up, and some work was performed on this car. This is John Force. And it is not normal to see all the racer tape, as it's called, all over the front of his fiberglass-bodied funny car. John Force in round number 2 is racing Mark Oswald, the driver of the Candies and Hughes Pontiac Trans Am-bodied car. Oswald from Cincinnati, Ohio, driving for the Louisiana-based crew, while John Force hails from Fullerton, California. Force is another of those racers at the Spring Nationals that is very fortunate to be in the second round. Back in the first round, after he defeated Kenny Bernstein, John Force had his parachute look like a streamer. And once again, trying to stop the car, John Force takes dead aim on those catch nets at the end of the racetrack. Force guiding his car towards the center of the track and the center of the net, much slower than we saw Mike Dunn go into it. The net stretches, then responds and stops John Force.
John Force won the battle here, but may have lost the war. John, a good job of hitting the net as you're supposed to, and you might be able to fix this car.
We always fix them, Steve.
That's true. You've done this in the past.
I double-checked the chute twice. I didn't shove my cable far enough. My error. That's just a stupid mistake. I knew it when it didn't blossom. I went for it again. It was just too late.
Well, John's okay. The car, a bit of damage, but as he said, we always fix them, Steve.
And fix it he did, Steve, as back at the starting line in the second round, John Force is ready to do battle with Mark Oswald. There is a lot of tape holding that fiberglass body together, but the NHRA officials have looked it over, says it's okay, and here's John against Oswald. Mark Oswald out as John Force headed for the guardrail. It had been a little tougher to fix at that point, and he hit the guardrail. He did not, and Mark Oswald streaks to the win at a 6.18 second elapsed time. His speed a fine 241 miles an hour. A lot of work by John Force and the crew, but it went to no avail as he lost traction and lost the race. Our next pair of cars, the Orange Baron, is in the near lane. That is Gary Bergen. He is racing Tom Anderson. Anderson from Macedon, New York, driving for Alan Aronek and Jim Ouimet. While Gary Bergen is one of the true touring professionals on the championship trail from Stanton, California, the Orange Baron. Bergen, a former national champion, enjoying a fine spring nationals thus far. Following the direction of his crewman up into his own tracks, left after his long, smoky burnout, as Tom Anderson does the same. A lot of concentration necessary to drive one of these cars. Just imagine, in the distance of a few short city blocks, you are accelerating to over 240 miles an hour in less than 6 seconds. Anderson up in smoke. Gary Bergen, he also had to lift for a second, and it's a close race, and Gary Bergen pulls it out at the finish. A 6.26 second elapsed time. His speed, 233 miles an hour. But as we watch again, watch Tom Anderson in the far lane lose traction. Right there, the car up in smoke. Gary Bergen pulls up alongside, and that's where he stays all the way down that quarter-mile racing surface to the finish line, and by a wheel length, Gary Bergen defeats Tom Anderson. You can see how close the times were as Bergen wins the race.
I got a feeling Gary Bergen didn't know he won that race, too.
No, it was close. I looked over right at the finish line. He was right there.
6:26 to a 6:29.
Wow, that was close.
So Anderson has been involved in the two closest races of the day, but you got him this time.
Yeah, but I lost to him at the other two national events this year.
Well, Gary Bergen got his revenge. In the final two cars of this round, it'll be Dale Pulde against Rick Johnson. Pulde from Van Nuys, California, considered one of the toughest drivers around. For Rick Johnson, this has got to be his lucky meet. The Utica, New York-based driver had the upset win of his career in the first round of racing as he was pitted against the new track record holder, Don Prudhomme, who had recorded a speed of over 249 miles an hour. We watch Prudhomme go up in smoke. He drives away from the guardrail, and Johnson, streaking for the finish line, wins the race.
Don, you do everything right for 3 days. In round one, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what's disgusting about this damn thing. I don't know.
It's really 2 races in a row that you've almost hit the rail in round one like that.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, just what can I say? Just hasn't been a good year.
An obviously dejected Don Prudhomme, but an elated Rick Johnson in the near lane has got to tangle now with Dale Pulde. Pulde leaves first, but loses traction. The car up in smoke. Johnson clean to the finish line to a 6:19 at 234 miles an hour. The car coming to a stop as we watch again the tire smoke showing for Dale Pulde, indicating that loss of traction that allows the competition to move ahead and hold the lead all the way to the finish line.
Well, a young guy that's been around a lot of years, but I think this is the first time we've got a chance to talk to him as a winner down here at the end of the racetrack. Rick Johnson doing a fine job. You got the snake, and now you're into the semis.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Ronnie's doing a real good job tuning the car today. And it's shaking bad out there, and it's loose, and we're shifting early and just trying to get her through there the best way we can.
Rick Johnson and his crew chief, Ronnie Swearingen, getting the car ready to run against Mark Oswald in the semifinals. Raymond Beadle against Gary Bergen. This huge Spring Nationals crowd is enjoying all of the action on the racetrack, but there's a lot of work going on in the pit area. Steve Evans is with Doug Kerhulis.
Well, Doug Kerhulis, your opponent, Richard Tharp, a few trailers over, completely apart, all 8 pistons out of the motor. You haven't even taken the heads off.
No, we just, it ran really, really well. Just very easy and smooth, and there's no reason to take the heads off when it's not hurt. You can take it apart, and when you put it back together, you can mess something up. So it looks real good, and we just leave her alone.
Without x-ray vision, how do you know it's not hurt?
Well, we have a leak down tester that we use to check each cylinder, and it's absolutely come out perfect. The worst cylinder we have in the engine's like 27%, and anything like that is just perfect when it comes to nitro. So there's no problem. Just start up and go race it.
One thing you know is Tharp will be plenty aggressive up there.
And no problem. Yeah, I like Richard. Richard's got to have to beat me. There's no problem. We'll race a good race. They've had a lot of problems. They can jump up and run good. We know that. So this car here should run a 77 or a 78, and if he can run quicker, he wins. But I think we're looking real, real good.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
While the Top Fuel racers get ready for the semifinal round of racing, here comes Pro Stock. The factory hot rods, the crowds love them. The Ford Thunderbirds, the Chevy Camaros, and the Pontiac Trans Ams. In this case, this is Bob Glidden. He has had a tremendous string of successes at the Spring Nationals. Bob, with his wife Etta, his crew chief, has won 4 straight. He is the defending champion. He is racing Butch Leal, known as the California Flash, but living now in Blacklick, Ohio. These cars very evenly matched. They can run a maximum cubic inch engine of 500 cubic inches. They must run carburetors. They must run on gasoline. They are very exotic, refined pieces of racing equipment. The Pontiac of Butch Leal is in the far lane. The Ford Thunderbird in the near lane for Bob Glidden, the defending champion. This is the semifinal round. We started with 16 cars. There are 4 remaining. The starting advantage appears to go to Glidden. The Ford Thunderbird pulling slightly ahead of Butch Leal, and it is Bob Glidden winning the race at 7.85 seconds. Butch Leal just about a car length behind. Our next pair already coming to the burnout area. In the near lane is Frank Iaconio. In the far lane is Don Kuntz. Iaconio finished number 2 in the world last season. He comes from the eastern seaboard of Totowa, New Jersey, his hometown. For Don Kuntz, Cayuga, Indiana is his hometown, and he has had a big upset win already this race. In the second round, he defeated the low qualifier and the reigning world champion Lee Shepard. So Don Kuntz in the Pontiac, the team of Kuntz and Clark, going against Frank Iaconio in the Chevy Camaro. A bit of a psychological staging battle going on. Kuntz is last to stage. The RPMs are up, and it's Iaconio out with the lead. He continues to pull away from Don Kuntz with a margin of over a car length at the finish line. Frank Iaconio wins it. The parachute comes off Don Kuntz's car, but he quickly brings it under control. Earlier, there were some other Spring Nationals champions crowned in our Sportsman Eliminator categories of competition. Let's take a look at the final rounds of racing in those categories. In Stock Eliminator, Don Holben of Lansing, Michigan was racing Steve Benyo of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the winner at the Spring Nationals, Don Holben. Our Super Stock final matched Dick Henry against Mike Farrell. And a close race to the finish line, but Mike Farrell, the winner in Super Stock. The Super Gas final saw Mark Powick going off against Mike Bazell. Mike Bazell of Logan, Ohio, the Super Gas champion. Competition Eliminator saw the Opal of Larry Kopp against Mike Withrow in the dragster. And in one of the closest handicap races of the day, Mike Withrow in the dragster pulls it out at the finish line. The Top Alcohol funny cars saw Frank Mandolini go off against Ace Manzo. Ace Manzo previously had a run-in with the net, and he made it all the way to the finals, but lost to Fred Mandolini, the Spring Nationals champion. And in Top Alcohol dragster, it was an upset, as a red light for Bubba Sewell gave the win automatically to Bill Walsh. Sewell had won every NHRA event to this point in 1983. So our congratulations going to all of the champions at the Spring Nationals. In our Sportsman Eliminator categories, in Top Alcohol dragster, Bill Walsh. Alcohol funny car, Fred Mandolini. Competition, Mike Withrow. Super Gas, Mike Bazell. Super Stock, Mike Farrell. Stock Eliminator, Don Holben. Coming up next, the Top Fuel semifinals at the Spring Nationals.